picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
My mind is going. I can feel it.
Okay, I just wanted to have a moment of silence for the clean table. It's January 2nd. It is 1/2/2020, and I'm going to get one quickie video out by the rest of this week. But first I wanted to gaze upon the glory and the awe and the splendor that is a clean desktop. And also did the customary type of things that you do at the first of the year, at least for me. I'll go through my Tamiyas, and if I've got like 2 half jars of something, I'll pour them together and make 1 jar out of it, kind of condense my paints, throw out any old brushes that just can't be cleaned again, half bottles of CA. If I can't, sometimes I'll get through a bottle of CA and there'll be a little bit left in the bottom and I don't want to throw it out, but I'll end up throwing it out anyway. So I go through and I do. It's not exactly spring house cleaning because we are far from spring, but it is a midwinter house cleaning. But here we go. We have a clean tabletop, and I'm going to do something unheard of in my history. I'm going to put this camera on a tripod. Okay, the camera's on the tripod, A, to prove that I do have one, and B, because this is a rare enough instance where the table is clean enough that I can set one up. But it brings us to the first model of first model of 2020, which is the Moebius HAL eye plate. And I hesitate to call this a model because I'm sorry, I've got some of my own stuff in here. The box doesn't come nearly this full. You can see I was using it to clean off my table. I hesitate to call this a model only because it's get the box out of the way. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. That's it. That's the model. It's a curiosity. I can kind of understand where they're coming from. Everybody wants to have a 1-for-1 prop of HAL. For the price they're asking, nobody. This is not. This is no great shakes. Now they do provide their own lighting circuit because HAL is known for 2 things: the light in the eyeball. That's it. And the second is that nice, calm, reassuring Douglas Rain voice that tells you, "Yes, Dave, I'm afraid I'm going to have to kill you," which is not present in this kit. Obviously, such licensing would be very expensive, and that's probably why they opted not to. But I mean, this is there's remedial, which is here. Then this is like below remedial. It's 1 piece. Put to there. Put to there. Put to there. Put the dome on top. You're done. I can build this model in real time for you. But I'm going to jazz it up a little bit, as I am wont to do. I have this, which is probably one of the last. I may have one other. This is a sound card. This was made by a company called Big Dogs, and I don't even think the company exists anymore. I think they died about the same time as your father did. He knew my father? I'm sorry, I've been watching a lot of Star Wars lately. But it is a 5 sound card. Runs on 3 tiny batteries. I'm going to see if I can do something about that, so I don't have to worry about changing batteries. But it's going to give me the sounds of HAL that I can put on there to try to add some life to this. Now, this is designed. They give you a nice little. 1/7 of the parts of this entire kit is this stand, in case you want to put it on a stand on a table. I don't know anybody in their right mind who would put HAL on a stand on a table. You want to hang it on a wall, and this piece has no ability to be hung on a wall without adding something. And I gotta tell you, the single biggest complaint, other than the price on this kit I have, is the fact that there's no backing plate. Come on, it's a piece of plastic. How tough could it be to include a backing plate on this? Now, it's also one of the easiest things in the world to scratch build, And, you know, that may have been the logic behind it. Well, you know, the modeler can just scratch build a back plate on it or put a piece of cardboard or something. But you shouldn't have to do that for the, again, for the price that's being paid. And look at this. Can you see that? That means it's not laying flat. It's got a twist in it. There is not even a molded in lip here. If they wanted you to build your own back plate, they would have put in a rabbeted joint here so that you could slide a plate on top of it. It is exactly the thickness of a 9-volt battery. Well, it is, let me see, here's the edge. So you could put a 9-volt battery, which is it's designed for it. The wiring comes as one piece with a 9-volt battery lid on it, but you can put a 9-volt battery and then still sink a back plate over top of that. So to make all of this work, I better dig out all the number of paints that I'm going to need, which is 3. I'm sorry. They want you to paint this grill gunmetal, and then there is black paint for the face, which does have this very nice molded in kind of a stainless steel pattern to it. So I don't want to sand that or otherwise ruin it, but it's going to get a nice coat of paint on it. We're going to tape this off because this is where the decal for the HAL decal goes. The decal is backed in white, so we are going to get a very nice there. There are some decals here that are meant to wrap around the lens to replicate the wide-angle lens that HAL was made of. But seriously, it's black, flat black, satin black, and aluminum. That's it. But to get started, the first thing I want to do is to drill out all of the tiny holes that are in the speaker grill so that when I produce a sound behind it, you'll be able to hear it. So let's get cracking on that. And I think I want to throw a coat of, even though this is, you know, nice plastic and all that, I'm not going to sand this, but I do want to sand up the edges here just very lightly and then throw a coat of primer on top of this. Just so you're not painting on plastic. Painting on bare plastic is an aberration, and you should never do it. You should always paint on primer. Primer is built to stick to subsurfaces. Paint isn't always built. Paint is happier when it's sticking to other paint, which is why you put primer on things. So without much ado, let's get started. It's Thursday. It's Thursday morning. I've got today and tomorrow. I can't see any reason why we can't get this done. Okay, I'm starting to drill through the holes. Never have I been so glad to have this fine motorized assist on the drilling, because this is where you put in the obligatory line about knowing how many holes it takes to fill the Albert Hall. This is a ton of holes, and they did a pretty good job of where they put their reinforcements here. They're mostly between the lines of holes. There's only this one strip here where you seem to be drilling. There's a line of holes right behind it, but that's not so bad, all things considered. Most of them, I say, are in this big area, or like they have placed it between a row of holes. But now we get back to the boring part of continuing to bore the holes. And here is the grate with all 432 holes drilled out. Could not have made it through in such quick business without this Tamiya handy drill. Now the nice thing about this is that the holes were very light. I mean, they were already partially drilled through, so all you had to do was, basically break through and keep it nice and round. And the hard part was cleaning off the shavings from the back here to make that nice and clean, so the holes were nice and open. But now we're ready to put a coat of primer on this, and I sweep this up too. Okay, that took literally no time at all, but I've just basically made a backing plate for the interface. That's all it is. It's just a piece of plastic that is got a little notch cut out to go around the embedded switch they've put in there. But what I need to do at this point is to put some blocks in the corners here, something down in these bottom corners, so that when this is put in, it doesn't get pushed in too far. I want it to be flush with the back of it, so all I need to do is measure the thickness of this and then put a stop in there that is that height. And I probably will put one here in the center. It's not going to kill anybody to do that. But again, something simple, something that Moebius could have done very easily, but chose not to for some odd reason. And then what I can do is cut holes in here, or either put command strips on the back of it, or cut holes in it to hang it like a traditional picture would be hung. I just cut a little keyhole right there and then just hang it over a nail, or a thumbtack even. So it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to close off the back, and that's what this does. So next step is to go ahead and paint this black, paint this area in here black, and then let that dry, mask that off, and then paint the whole deal with the aluminum color. I can go ahead and paint the gunmetal on that. Let's see, this, while I've got the black paint out, I have to paint, not this ring, that ring is silver, but I have to paint this lens aperture situation thingy part here. I gotta paint that black as well. So, ooh, tough work ahead. Alrighty, I've determined the height of the standoffs, or the stays need to be, so that when I, yes, it's still hooked up to the tripod, but I'm moving the whole tripod around. But when you push that down, you get a nice level look. So I just need to cut, let's see, one, I need to put one here, one down there, and probably two here. So 4 or 5 more at that height. Okay, as I'm trying to figure out the electronics for this, I went ahead and painted it, practically everything. I've got a couple coats of the black primer on that, and depending on how that dries, that may be the final black. I've got the flat black inside the lens. I've got to do some semi-gloss black around the outside, but I need the inside to dry first. I've got some silver on this ring, and I've got the gunmetal on the speaker grate, which will go down there. I do plan on masking this black. I probably won't do that till tomorrow, since I've got, God knows I've got the whole day to do it. But that'll give this black plenty of time to dry, so that when I mask over top of it to spray the silver pinstriping there, then it will be good and cured. And now I need to run out and pick up some stuff for the electronics, because I figured out, I think, a way that I can run everything off of this 9-volt battery, including the sound card, so that I can not have to worry about running these little watch batteries on this card, which I prefer not to do. And I've rounded up some switches. I'm going to make an auxiliary little control panel right down here that will hang below HAL, with a tiny little channel to run the all of these multitude of switch wires. I do not want to break into the cabinet here. I want to keep that clean. To show you an example, now they've done this to put the on-off switch, and I could, if I wanted to, put my buttons for the sound effects. I've got 5 different sound effects that I'm going to use, and I could run those up the side here, but I just think that spoils the look. I'm not even really wild about that switch being there, to tell you the truth. But it's black, and it's small, and it's inconspicuous. These big old red buttons I don't want to have to do. So if I can make a little box that's going to go right here and hang on the wall underneath it, and then you just walk up to it and push the buttons and hear the different sound effects. That's the goal. So to make that happen, though, I need to run out and get another one of those dollar store USB power converter things. Okay, I'm back. Well, I did do some running around, but I'm back. Went to the Dollar Tree. Get thee to a Dollar Tree, folks. All you see here, $4. That's 3 USB chargers and 2 key lights. But all that, $4. It's the best time of year to get Christmas stuff. But these chargers, I use these like candy, because they have the wonderful ability to go from 9 volts or 12 volts, 9 volts in this case, down to 4.5 volts, which is your typical USB. But it's also the same as 3 1.5 volt batteries. So that ends up being a perfect substitute. So all I gotta do is take this apart, which is not all that tough. They're I would say they're cheap, but they're not very well put together, so they come apart pretty easily. And what I want to do is this one screw that holds them together. What I want to do is get this board repowered, and then I can make sure if that's going to work before I start monkeying around with these switches. Okay, great news. Even though it looks like a mess, it works. Power goes to tiny board, which used to be the USB. USB goes to sound card. Switches seem to be working.
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't do that. Has the mission been completed? You know that I have the greatest enthusiasm for it.
So all I got to do is stick this ugliness into the kit, and we are done. So now that I know this works, I want to take this part of it apart and put these bigger switches instead of these little tiny switches. Okay, I think I got a good place to button it up for the day. Let's get this stuff out of here. I've got battery to board. I've got board power to, that's the step down voltage. This goes to the greeting card board. I've got the 5 switches attached.
I've just picked up a fault in the AE35 unit.
And I got a lengthened new speaker wire so that I can move this board away from the speaker and not be beholden to where it is. So got all this stuff done. I'm in a good spot for tomorrow to finish this thing up. Welcome back to day 2 of the 2-day build. I'm pretty confident I'll finish today, only because I've got so little left to do. I only have to install all of the electronics and put it together. You can see I have painted, keeping the paint nice and protected there. What I want to do now is cut a hole in this side right here. And the reason I want to cut a hole in it is so that I can slide the circuit board for the sound effects into that little hole, and that will give me access to this USB port. And what that allows me to do is to change out the sound effects. I can simply program in a new series of sound effects for the 5 clips, so I don't have to keep the same ones. I tried experimenting with some other speakers today, and this is something where I'm really out of my element, because as long as the electronics are plug and play, I'm okay. But trying to get creative with anything other than lighting is a mystery to me. So what I was trying to was get something, a beefier speaker than that comes with what comes with the sound effects card. And I think it may have been the ohms or whatever the mystical term is, but it was not giving. This board does not give me enough power to run out sound out to anything larger than just this tiny little buzzer speaker. So that's what it's made for. This does not have to have Dolby 7.1 quadraphonic sound or anything. As long as I can get the sound effect to come out of the speaker, I'm a happy pappy. So what I need to do is start mounting all these things, and the first important thing is to cut a hole right there. Okay, things are coming along pretty well, but I've run into a problem of thickness, and it is clear that the fine people at Moebius intended for you to use a piece of double stick to hold the battery in place, and that's what they engineered for, because I tried using Velcro, figuring that would be a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more easy to swap out, and it is too thick. It is the difference between putting Velcro in a space here to stick the battery down and using a simple piece of double stick is the difference in the thickness between that and the base or the back plate that I have made fit on there. And I guess if you don't plan on making a back plate, then you're fine to use Velcro there. But be warned that a standard 9-volt battery with Velcro on it is too thick to have to fit flat. And that was the problem. It would make a little hump here when I put the back plate on, And that would just mean if I was going to mount that on a wall that it would rock back and forth. It wouldn't be flat on the wall. So I guess double stick it is, since double stick takes up no space. But here we can see kind of where we're at. I've got all of my switches hanging down from the bottom. I've got to make a box yet for those. This is, if you can chase it up through, this is the powered circuit. And the powered circuit needs to attach to this 9-volt battery, and then I need to run a line from the 9-volt down to the LED in the center, which is as intended here, and then also I need to run power to the 9-volt and power to this step down board, and they're going to run off of this same switch. So just one more little bit of wiring and we'll be ready to flip this thing over and paint the silver on it, which means masking off the black area and all of that kind of stuff. So while I've got the hot glue out, I need to finish running my wiring, and I got the soldering iron out, so I need to finish the wiring, and then I can pop this back plate on. I don't know exactly what is going to be the best way. I still would like to obviously put a command strip here to hang it on the wall, but I'm wondering whether I need to put screws down on the corners to hold it in, or magnets, or exactly what is going to be the best way to hold this back plate on. But you can see without the battery in there that you make a nice flat back. I did have to cut out a little bit more area for the switch because I was cutting out for the switch holder, but not the switch itself. Okay, I ran into another little snag that I feel duty bound and compelled to let you in on, and that is the red bulb. The red bulb that comes with the kit. Works fine with the 9-volt battery that is supplied, or not supplied with the kit, but it is engineered for with the kit. However, that red bulb, and you know the history of red LEDs, the red bulb did not want to play well with this other circuit. So I had to get rid of it. Had to send it on a slow boat back to China. The red bulb, no bueno, don't use it. I did pull out another 5-volt bulb, or a 5 mil bulb that I have, that is clear, but it is a red bulb. It's just not the red plastic. And for some reason, I'm sure the electrical gods will tell me, it will work. And it works fine with the other circuit. I can run them both off the same battery. Everybody is happy. Kids are smiling. Children are playing in the street. The birds are singing. The squirrels are making their nests. So all I got to do now is replace all, or reset all of this wiring that I had to kind of rip up once I was into troubleshooting mode. So we have a switch. Switch works to the battery. Battery works to the positives. Okay, let me get all this cleaned up and then make it neat, and we'll get back to you. Okay, I think I've gotten myself to a spot where I am ready to show off. Got all the wiring attached in here. Everything is looking pretty good to this point. I've got everything down to this switch, and if I pop the LED in there, I'm going to have to bend over the contacts, there you go, so that I can put that in. Obviously, of course, the inner dome needs to be taken care of, and then we've got the outer dome. So you've got the red light HAL, there you go, and all of the Now I still have some playing around to do with the sound files themselves, which is why I made the little spot here so that I could re-upload or reinstall new sound files. I'm debating, you can help me with this, of course I've already decided by the time I put the video up, whether or not I want to frost just this inner dome, just the inner dome, because I'm wondering if the light from HAL is too focused. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this out on another, I don't know if I've got another plastic dome around here about the same size, but I think I could try something with some clear PETG or maybe even if I can find like a gumball dome and cut that off and use that as just as a test case. Frost that and then put the big dome over top of it to see whether or not that's going to be what I want to do. Now the last big chunk of construction I need to do is to, let me go ahead and move this up. There you go. So that there you go. Now you're seeing it. See, now you're, oh, a glimpse behind the curtain here. Nothing is glued in yet. But one last thing to do before I mask off the silver and get ready to paint it is to build the box for the switches that go here. And that shouldn't take too much time, but I do want to get the silver sprayed on here. So what I'm thinking I might do is to go ahead and spray this silver, because I'm going to be working down here on this box. I can go ahead and mask this off and put a coat of silver on it. Pull this bulb out because I don't need it right now. Go ahead and mask off the hi-ho silver and at least get the first coat of it on there, and it can be drying while I am making up the box down here. Okay, I've got the silver coat on, probably the first of a couple, but I've got the areas masked off that I want to keep black or gunmetal, but the silver has been painted, and this is a great time to leave it the heck alone to avoid any, even though it's acrylic, I want to, the Tamiya silver, I still want to avoid even the appearance of breathing on it wrong or putting a thumbprint on it. So we're going to leave it sit, come back in a couple of hours, and well, I can start playing with the box here, but there's some of that I can do without ever having actually to touch these. I can take the measurements off of them and make the box up and kind of fit it on there, which is my goal. Since I've got more of these switches, all I need to do is grab some of them so that I can, you know, mock up the template. And we're going to let this dry while I go do other constructive things. Alrighty, now the box for the switches, the witch's switches, is right here, and that's got some primer on it and it's drying. What I want to do now is delicately turn this faceplate around. I need to get under here where the decal is going to go and gloss that so that I can put the decal down on top of the glossed area. Just this little bit. So I'm going to peel up the tape from just this area, and well, you know, actually, let me think about that. I could peel up the tape from all of it, really. It's doing a nice job protecting the black, but I don't need it. I'm pretty much done with it. So let's peel up the tape, see how we did. Nothing fancy here, just plain old yellow painter's tape. Okay, looking very good. I'm going to leave that down there. I don't really need to mess with that, so I'm going to leave that for later. Now I've got this area right here that I need to gloss over to put the decal down, so I'm going to retape that. And to do that, I'm just grabbing some of the old 2-inch frog tape. What's that? 1.5 inch frog tape? Not really 2. It's 2-inch. 2-inch frog tape. And I'm just going to lightly tape around the outside edge of this decal, or the outside edge of this flattened area where the decal is going to go. It's just a rectangle, nothing special, nothing flash there. And I'm going to use the Vallejo gloss, the clear gloss. Not going to use anything too obtrusive like a Krylon or anything. So there you go. So I just got that rectangle taped off. Let me find, not the matte varnish, I want the gloss varnish. Gloss varnish. So give this a good shake, 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 and clean the brush out really well. So let me take care of that, and we'll be back in a flash. Okay, so I'm back from lunch. Took a little bit of a late lunch, but back from that, and I am ready to decal. This is already flat. This was already sprayed with a semi-gloss on the outside, so it's ready. This has got the gloss, and that's had a chance to dry, so it's ready. This is looking quite nice when you put it all together. So let's get some warm water and some decal fluid ready to go. Okay, the decals are down, difficult as they were. I mean, come on. As difficult as anything else about the rest of this build. There is the quite obvious HAL 9000 decal. There are some decals that go on the lens casing on both sides. There was also one that was called Reset. It said Reset on it, and it was indicated that it went on the outside here by the switch, this number 4. I said, not going to do that one. A, because the outside of the case is silver, and white decal would not show up against the silver, and B, that switch would never have been there in the first place, so you don't really need to reset from that. So we're going to let this stuff dry for a while. The box for the switches is drying, almost ready to put that in place. We're dangerously close to being finished today. But the only thing that won't get done will be the final clear coat over top of the decals, because, as is tradition, I like to wait at least a day before those are sprayed so that they have plenty of time to dry. Okay, moving right along, I'm just polishing up the lenses here, the inner, and I've decided not to go with any sort of frosting of the inside because it doesn't really buy me anything. It doesn't disperse the light or scatter it or anything, because by the time you put it on there, it's right in front of the bulb anyway. So I'm just taking some of the Novus polishing liquid and cleaning up the plastic, the styrene. Even though it's very clear, it can always stand to be cleaned, especially since it's going to be sealed once it's glued down, so any dust that's in there is going to want to attract itself to the inside of the dome. And then I can work on the switch box, and then that's the last bit, really. I need to figure out how to attach the back and how to hold that in place. I'm thinking a central magnet will be enough. I just have to, and especially if I use the bigger size of magnet, I think that will be plenty. But I can do this, jump down, grab the seat here. I can continue to pick this up and move it aside while I am working, so it's not been glued down yet. I can mask it, or otherwise cordon it off to keep it from getting paint on it. So there we go. And I think what I need to do now is take a little touch of the microcrystal clear. Now the problem I have with microcrystal clear is it does dry clear, but it also dries glossy clear, and that may be an issue when time comes to look at the inside of this dome. I don't want it to be, I obviously want it to dry clear, but I don't want it to be a gloss. So if I had a glue that I knew would dry flat, that would be a different thing. So let's see. I'm trying to see how little I can get away with. If I could just touch the bottom edge of this smaller dome and glue it in place with that, just nice and lightly. Sorry, I'm not in camera. Camera's still, but I'm not in camera. So a little touch there, a little touch there. And now plopping it in place with any degree of accuracy. Might be nice if I had a suction cup or something here. Do I have one of those little gripper things? If I have one of those little gripper things, no, let's just go ahead and do it. That was sloppy. Sloppy. Let me go ahead and clean some of that off. Now you're going to see gloppy glue inside of there that I can only hope is going to dry. But there's the inner dome. The outer dome is going to be much the same, so let's just get with the gluing. I am hoping and praying that that glue will dry clear. It has been historically proven that glue will dry clear and will all disappear and look good, so that's what I'm counting on. So one last thing to go really, and that is to build this box, put the switches in, and glue it underneath. So let's do that last bit and get ready to attach this thing to a wall. Okay, there it is. It's done. If you'll forgive the fact that this microcrystal clear glue has not completely cured yet, it is done. It was started yesterday morning. It is done this afternoon, and that's with putting the sound box in. So to say it was a quick build is to not give it nearly enough credit for being a very quick build. Let me polish off that dome here. That all works, and of course you only get the lens flare at one particular angle, and that's it, like that. So that's there you go. That's the lens flare that you want right there. But there you go, and
I've just picked up a fault in the AE35 unit. Take a stress pill and think things over. It can only be attributable to human error. I feel much better now. I really do. Has the mission been completed? You know that I have the greatest enthusiasm for it.
And I think I'm going to swap those out, at least one of them out, before I hang this on the wall. And here is the final HAL on the wall in my 2001 corner of the world. This next to my reproduction of the vintage poster, the autographed picture of both Gary Lockwood and Keir DeLay, of course the award-winning pod, and some other 2001 models in the close proximity. But there you go, and if you're very, very quiet, you can hear the dulcet tones.
I just picked up a fault in the AE35 unit. Has the mission been completed? You know that I have the greatest enthusiasm for it. It's puzzling. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before. This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
And yes, you can see me in the reflection of the poster doing the wonderful cinematography here. But there you go, quick 2-day build. And that's how we're going to wrap up our week, our 2-day week, with the ever so quick and easy to do HAL 9000 interface. My thoughts on this kit range wildly from gee, it's nice to have an accurate HAL 9000 wall plaque, to all the way to, gee, what a desperate cash grab. Because for what it is, for what you get, for how long it took to make, for how, I'm sure how little resources it took to make, it is at least twice as expensive as it should be. At least twice. It's at least, I mean, I know Moebius has to pay for their license and all that. But good Lord, this is an expensive kit for what you get. I mean, you're almost in the resin kit range as far as what resin kits cost for what you get out of them. And hey, but I'm glad it's done. I'm glad I did it. Glad I finished it. I don't think there's anything, any part of the electronics outside of maybe the switch that I kept. But it was fun. It was a fun use of the greeting card, sound card. So it was a good marriage of parts and subject. So until next week, when I don't know what we're going to start on. I have the inkling I want to start on something big in the spring, but I don't know what that something big is going to be. So I may dig into the stash and see what I've got that I can do in a couple of weeks. So until then, be good to each other. You know, don't let your HAL talk to your Siri. Maybe that's everybody's worried about Skynet, and I think Siri is the guy you need to be keeping your eye on, or the gal. So until next week, be good to each other, and we'll see you here gathered around the workbench.